there, comic book friends. I'm Travis. It's time for another edition of What the Fugue, where I talk about what's going on with me in my week of comics. How's it going, everybody? So, let's see. What do we want to talk about first? The Harley Quinn Scratch and Sniff comic book is like the #1 selling comic book or something crazy like that. Pretty funny gag with the whole cannabis scratch and sniff. Not that I think that that's necessarily the biggest reason why it is the #1 selling. I just think the whole gag of a scratch and sniff comic book, which is, I think, pretty funny. Cannabis or not cannabis. Big sales there. I don't know what we're going to get for a gimmick to outsell that, or if we'll get a long-running list of scratch and sniff comic books. I have no idea. Of course, I think one of the reasons probably is that it's selling so well is because, of course, everybody's going to have to buy 2 copies, right? One so you can scratch the crap out of it, and one so you can have an actual copy that hasn't been trashed, I would guess. So, double sales to everybody on a book that I think sells pretty well anyway, right? So, that's interesting. That's really curious to see how that all is gonna transpire. Real curious to hear what people's thoughts are on that. How that all works out for them, the whole scratch and sniff thing. That's pretty cool. Let's see what else. Marvel settles with the Jack Kirby estate on some of the suits that were going on there. That is probably extremely huge. I'm excited to see exactly what comes out of that, just for the legacy of Kirby. There's some interesting articles out there to read on it. Kurt Busiek, who writes Astro City, is kind of somebody who's not necessarily 100% in the loop, but probably the guy who knows the most about it because he's spent a lot of time looking into it, has written some decent articles on it. You should go check those out. They're floating out there on the internet a number of places. Pretty interesting. I think that probably finally the Kirby estate is finally going to get, first and foremost, we'll start getting the credit, just the stuff that they should get credit for and whatnot. And I'm not sure exactly what else. And I would assume that the children and grandchildren of Kirby are going to be extremely well compensated now. Because, of course, those Kirby creations, i.e. most of the Avengers, and most of the rest of, huge chunks of the Marvel line, are billion-dollar industry now, right? Just movies alone make them a billion-dollar industry. So, and just so people don't know, I mean, lots of people keep commenting on the fact that, the Kirby estate was suing Marvel. Actually, the Kirby estate wasn't suing Marvel at all. Marvel was actually suing the Kirby estate. Because what the Kirby estate was doing is the Kirby estate was asking for their copyrights back. With the way the copyright laws changed, and then the amount of time that they had to wait for that to happen. Jack Kirby, never lived long enough to follow through on what he wanted to do. Any of those creator-type people can request to get their copyright back, and then they have to go through some legalese as to whether or not that's going to happen. How are they defined as an employee? And ultimately, on the last business day of before the Supreme Court was actually going to sit down and decide whether or not it was something that they would actually rule on or not, was the day that they decided to make a decision. And my guess would be is that whoever settled it is, that whoever has the most to lose is the person who settled it, right? The Kirby estate has nothing to lose because they have nothing to begin with. So I would assume that Marvel Disney is the people who settled it. But part of the whole argument from the Supreme Court was the definition of what kind of an employee was Kirby. Was he just an employee that literally everything he created during the time that he worked for Marvel was Marvel's even before it left his pencil? So basically any creative idea that came out of his head was their property regardless? Or was he a work-for-hire type person that created some stuff and should have some rights to that stuff? What's interesting was I believe that the Kirby family had arguing for them on their side was the person who actually helped rewrite the copyright law that would establish them to even pursue this course of action. Because there's no argument that initially, Kirby signed over rights to most of that stuff in some sense. But anyway, interesting. Like I said, my understanding from just, like I said, the person that's going to sell that is the person who's going to lose, that I would expect we're going to see Kirby's name start showing up a lot more places for creator, as a creator, and have more rights as far as that goes. And like I said, I'm assuming some large sum of money was handed over to the Kirby estate. But I don't know if we'll ever actually see the real details. But still interesting, and I guess if the Kirby estate signed off and said, yay, we're happy with it, they must be happy with it, so I would assume that that's going to be the end of all those kinds of lawsuits and whatnot. So, that all being said, we can quit being bitter for Jack Kirby, right, and be happy now, and celebrate for everyone. Anyway, let's see what's going on. So this is technically the this week's comics will be October comics. So I'm going to go back to getting some DC comics since I took the whole month of September off from getting anything other basically than Batman Eternal and A Sensation Comics. I think that was it as far as DC books, because I skipped the whole Future's End tie-in stuff. So kind of excited to get back into that. So yeah, what else is going on in the world? Watched another episode of Gotham. Some interesting stuff in there, and of course continued stuff that's not so interesting. Not that it's not interesting, actually. It just makes you kind of question why they're doing some of the things they're doing. They're just going to crank out, I don't even know if you call them Easter eggs. Certainly if you know the mythos, you know these characters. So you're going to see a lot of them being cranked out. I think every episode they're going to name drop villains of one sort or another, basically. I don't have a problem with that. I mean, that's fine. I still like the characterization of Cobblepot, the future Penguin. He's a pretty creepy dude. I like how he's done. Other than that, the rest of it's, okay. It's a TV show, right? Oh, there's the yawn. Can't have a video without a yawn, it seems like, anymore again. For a while there, I wasn't yawning a bunch, but now I'm back to it again. Don't know what that's about. So, what else is going on with my week comics? I can't really think of anything. Continued, I know, Comic Roundtable will once again be on Saturday. Hopefully as close as possible to 6:30 Pacific, 9:30 Eastern Time. As also a programming note, the October 25th, Saturday, October 25th, we're going to continue the tradition of a Halloween comic book roundtable. So expect guests to be dressed up, hopefully. It's my intention to be dressed up in a Halloween costume for the evening. Hopefully everybody else that ends up showing up that night will partake also. It's always lots of fun. It makes for an extra amusing show. Last year when the show was still being hosted by Scott, Concept Romstar, we all dressed up, had some great things on there. Comic Book Girl was came on as Jen came on as Death from the Sandman comics. I was on as Two-Face, Harvey Dent. Scott came as the Invisible Man, all wrapped up in bandages and whatnot. We just had a lot of fun. And of course we talk comic books, so how can you go wrong there? Dressed up for Halloween and talking comic books. Doesn't get much better, right? Okay, so I'll keep reminding you about that. Anybody who's interested in being on that night in particular, because it is the Halloween, we are dressing up, let me know. Drop me a message down below or whatever. Throw me a line on Twitter at my Twitter account, and that's at the _Gotman_, yeah, something like that. So what else? Oh yeah, my contest, my little contest is over. So we'll pull a drawing right now. I'm not going to use the random.org thing because I don't know exactly how to go about doing that, because the people's names are kind of all over the place as far as people making videos and whatnot. Thank you all for making videos. Way more people made videos and answered the questions than I actually ever really thought would. Even had a few people who were non-entries. Thank you to them too. I appreciate you participating, even though you didn't want to be interested in the drawing. Comics to Comics and Mac Hammer, thank you guys both for being involved. I really appreciate it. Kind because I know it's hard. You know, we're all busy doing stuff. I don't enter near as many contests as what I want to. And really for me, it's got nothing to do with entering the contest. It's more about just participating in the other person's channel. You know, I think I missed Comic Cracks contest, which I really wanted to do. I may still put that video out if I can squeeze it in this weekend. Stuff for the kids, starting to make life a little busier. So yeah, there we go. So we'll do the drawing, and I've got all my names of all the people here, and everybody who made, here's a single person who didn't make a video but just answered the questions, and everybody else who made a video, your name is there, doubled up, because I said I would double it up if you made a video. And so I'll throw your name in the pot twice there. Got them all cut here. I'm going to cut them the rest of the way so they're loose. We'll put them in my hat, a la Lidville. Lidville, look it up, you youngins. So we'll put all those in there. Ooh, hard on the head, huh? Actually, this Mad Hatter hat, it's the real deal. It's actually a full-fledged hat, not just some prop. Anyway, so we'll cut these off while I'm talking. But anyway, I really appreciate it. Lots of fun. People answering the questions. Does that mean I should answer the questions? Let's see. What was the first question? You wake up on Paradise Island. What do you do? Some absolutely fabulous answers. You know, not to single anybody out or pick on anybody. You know, I love Sleepy Reader's answer of basically climbing a tree and praying to Hera. Because, of course, if you're on Paradise Island, you're on the island with all the Amazons. And if you're a guy, you're pretty well screwed. So that was awesome. I can't remember what it is. Somebody else said that they would act like a lady, and hopefully no one would notice that they were a guy. That was pretty funny. Let's see. I know there's some others that I thought were pretty funny. Mercy's Little Show. Mercy's Little Show minus the W on Twitter. She answered, of course, she was dressed up as Wonder Woman. Had a flash of her dressed up as Wonder Woman. That's awesome. That's the perfect thing for Paradise Island. John DeCostas was pretty funny also. Him being kind of the smart ass that John is. Talking about, you know, getting high, and he did some a great cut of from the old Wonder Woman TV show of Wonder Woman getting gassed, which was pretty awesome too. So I wake up on Paradise Island. What do? I get off the island as fast as I can. I just, you know, run for the ocean and start swimming, and I hope that the sharks that are guarding the island eat me really quick, because I don't figure I figure that's going to be far less painful than whatever the Amazons might do to me. For some reason, I just don't think that I look like Steve Trevor, and I don't think that I would. I don't think that I would survive the Amazons themselves. Anyway, so let's see what else. I'm stirring this up while I'm talking here. You invite the Hulk for dinner. What do you serve him? Some awesome answers there. I love Ghost Critics, where basically Ghost Critics going to serve him everything green you could possibly think of. You know, leftovers is pretty funny too. I noticed a lot of people were concerned about after the Hulk eats that as he processes that food, the disasters that might be involved there. Never really occurred to me to think of that. I think it'd be funny to serve the Hulk Jell-O. I don't know why. I just think a big giant bowl of Jell-O, the Hulk with a big spoon trying to eat Jell-O. For some reason, that strikes me as funny. I like the idea of him eating peanut butter too. That's a pretty awesome one. Let's see. Do you like hand lettering or lettering that is done by a computer? And it was interesting. A lot of people said they didn't know, they didn't care, it didn't matter as long as they could read it. That's where I'm at the end of the day. I want to be able to read what is written. But to be quite honest, you can tell the difference between handwritten writing and computer font. Handwritten writing has a warmth and a life to it that that just a standard computer font does not have. And I don't know how many of you realize that most comics, really, any comics that has a budget, is actually they're handwritten. They're not. It's not like, you know, some of those people actually sell their handwriting as a font that other people can use. But most comics that you actually have a letterer in there, and it's not like a Fontographics or some other sort of, you know, corporate or business or computer sounding type name. Most of them are actually handwritten. Handwritten lettering is still, I think, the norm as a whole. Certainly any comic book with a budget, it's handwritten. But yeah, I just think there's a huge difference. I mean, at the end of the day, does it ultimately matter? No, probably not. I think most comic creators would prefer to have handwritten stuff. I know that, like in the case of Casanova, Matt Fraction's Casanova, when it first came out from Image, when it was the three-tone colors and whatnot, they used a computer font, and it you know, was fine. But then when he reprinted it through, that was under Image, when he reprinted it through Marvel's Icon, they relettered it with a person actually doing the handwriting, and it has a lot more life to it. It really does. It's surprising how much so. Anyway, let's see. What was the next question? Let's see after the you're throwing a birthday party for Batman. What heroes don't you invite? It's amazing how many people said don't invite Superman when, you know, they're kind of like best buds to a large degree. You know, some people said don't invite Guy Gardner. That makes sense. You always get in fights with Guy Gardner. Don't invite Booster Gold because he's just obnoxious, that sort of thing. You know who I wouldn't invite? If I threw a party for Batman, I wouldn't invite Batman. That's the person I would invite. He wouldn't enjoy it. Everybody else would have a fun time. And Batman would just be kind of a stick in the mud, right? And he's out fighting crime. He doesn't have time for a birthday party. Come on. Anyway, let's see. What's some other questions? You're the CEO of Marvel and DC and Image Comics. Maybe not all on the same day. What do you do? Lots of great things. Most people wanted to stop Marvel from putting out so many darn events. Lots of people wanted both Marvel to quit putting out so many Avengers and X-Men books, and DC to quit putting out so many Batman books. Pretty much everybody said to Image just to leave Image alone because they thought Image was great. There are two things that I would do. As far as for Image, I would challenge them to find people who are creating other books besides, right now it seems to be horror and sci-fi seem to be the biggest trend. I would look for that. I would challenge them to do that. And I would also challenge them to spend less time when they're at these Image Expos or at the Comic-Con in San Diego. Spend less time tearing down the big two to make themselves seem greater than. You know, to say, oh, you know, the big two are just putting out corporate crap and, you know, this is where it's really at and whatnot. Because I have some opinions about all that. I think that it's kind of crazy to some degree to attack the big two, because Image Comics is actually using the big two. Because if the big two didn't exist, there wouldn't be the distribution and there wouldn't be the distribution, if nothing else, system that's in place that spreads comics across the entire world. It would be a lot harder for them. They would have, if they were suddenly the company and the other two companies quit making comics, you know, the infrastructure's not there. And I don't think the infrastructure would survive if the big two weren't there. So you can only attack them so far. They really do need the big two to exist. So I kind of think they need to lay off. It just irritates me. It's one of the things, you know, people comment lots of times that, in the past anyway, that I'm a Marvel hater, that I don't like Marvel and whatnot. And it's actually that I don't mind the characters. I love some of the people who work for Marvel as far as creators go. I have an issue with upper management at Marvel. Lots of lots of conventions that I've gone to. It always seems like I'm coming at the tail end of a Marvel panel, to watch a DC panel. And the Marvel panel always, the people at the top always take pot shots at DC at the last moments, just to put digs in and whatnot. And DC never does that. I've never been to a DC con where they've taken shots at Marvel, the way Marvel produces something, the way Marvel releases something, the way Marvel does, however they do business. They do their business and don't worry about anybody else's business, or at least don't comment publicly about everybody else's business. And it seems to me to be bad taste to make those comments. And what would I do at DC? DC, did I say I'd do it at Marvel? No, I didn't. Well, let's go DC. DC, what do I do at DC? At DC, I would allow more creative freedom. I would not set so many mandates that every book be basically the same kind of thing. I would basically almost demand that there be simmering periods, that there be time for us to sink into a book, sink into the character, sink into the flow of what's going on. It's not just one immediate bang right after another. I mean, I know these people are superheroes, they're constantly fighting crime and all of that, but there has to be a way to put in the story, give us some life to these characters beyond just going from the panic of one disaster to the next disaster. There needs to be that simmer in there, so when we have these big moments, they actually feel like big moments, they feel shocking, they feel surprising, they feel like they have energy, as opposed to now it's just, and after a while it feels like just one note. And so the high spots aren't high anymore because there is no high spots, it's all just one going crazy. And at Marvel, less event books. That would really be truly what I would want from them. Less event books and less tying everything together. I mean, I know it's all one universe and everything that happens in the universe, but don't tie quite so much stuff together. Don't have every book have to tie into whatever event's happening in some sense or another. The logical crossover is crossover, but don't force everything to have to be a crossover just for the sake of having one, just for the sake of tying into whatever the event is to try and sucker us into buying it. Let's see. What am I forgetting? I'm forgetting something. Oh, damn it. I don't even know my own questions. How sad is that? Well, if I remember what it is, I'll answer it down in the comments below. Gosh darn it, because this video is taking way too long of me just yammering and not getting to the thing. So anyway, so there is all the names in there in the hat. We're going to shake it up here. And then we're going to reach in here and we're going to pull it out. And it is Ghost Critic! Congratulations, Mark. Awesome for you to be a winner. Not that I would have been upset if anybody else was the winner, but it does tickle me that Ghost Critic would win. He's actually one of my first followers. I basically barely existed on YouTube until one day Ghost Critic found my channel when I was doing 30 Days of Comics with my son Ethan. Every day we would answer a question. I can't remember where we got the questions from, some off of some written blog somewhere. And so we decided we were going to answer these questions. Some of them, ridiculous questions that don't even do anything. Some of them were, who's your favorite character? Some were like, what comic book is on your desktop, your computer? At the time, I believe Ethan was like 12 or 13. And so a lot of those questions were pretty funny to have him answer and whatnot. And he seems like such a little boy. And if I ever get him back on video now, it will be shocking to see the difference between what he looked like then and what he looks like now, because he's just getting to be an adult, basically. So growing up. So, but yeah, as soon as Mark pointed out my channel, I probably jumped by 50 subscribers immediately. So thanks again for that. And as a matter of fact, when he did this video this time to enter into the contest, he actually mentioned and plugged down below, put one of my videos of me dressed as a zombie trying to eat Ethan, and my subscribers jumped by probably another 20 again. So thank you once again, Mark. Always a pleasure to watch your videos. Always a pleasure when I do get a chat with you. The only thing I can say, it's a bummer that we basically live on the opposite side of the world from you, because he lives in England, because I'd love to be able to do actual live chats with him and stuff like that. I have lucked out and actually was on one with him back when some of the Brits were doing a show for a while. I did get to get on that one Sunday, and that was awesome. Would love to do more of that kind of thing. Anyway, thank you everybody once again who entered and made great videos. Took these, a lot of these answers, took them serious. That was awesome if you took them serious, or not, whatever. It was just some fun. Really, this was not really so much a contest, about me basically giving back to the community, back to my friends, back to my subscribers, who watch and comment, and it's awesome. And I'm really excited because there seems to be suddenly another push of new people talking about comics, talking about sequential art, and that just excites me a whole bunch because I really do love sequential art. I really do love comic books beyond just the superheroes, beyond what superheroes mean. It as a medium, it as a art style, it as a way of conveying a story, a thought, and a feeling is pretty amazing. It's pretty amazing. You can't do it in any other form. They try. They try to do movies that are literally exactly like the book, and you can't do it. You can't do it. There's something about that that is its own amazing thing, and I love it. And I'm so happy that you guys have all been along with me to embrace all that great stuff. So thanks for watching this super long video. I have no idea how long it is, how long I drug this out, but thank you again, and we'll see you on the weekend, or we'll see you next week with another What the Fugue, right? Have a good one, everybody.